Good day, Hudson Valley. I'm your host, Lisa Caslin, and welcome to our show where we bring you the best of what's happening and who's happening in Putnam, Northern Westchester, and Southern Dutchess. Today, we're continuing our four-part series on community behavioral health with a discussion about suicide and some of the common causes, some of the signs that we can look for, and perhaps some ways that we can destigmatize the issues associated with it. Our guests today are experts in mental health counseling and suicide prevention. Please welcome Krista Zanfordino, who's a licensed clinical social worker, program director of PROS for Putnam Family and Community Services. Megan Castellano, who's the executive director for Mental Health Association in Putnam County. Welcome.
Thank you.
Maria Idoni, Hudson Valley and Westchester Area Director of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks.
I want to start off with a question that may be obvious to you, but I read recently that the majority of people who actually complete suicide never really wanted to die, but they just couldn't find another way out of their pain. Do you know that to be true? Would you?
I think that we have found that a lot of people who have thought about suicide and attempted suicide have felt really alone in their pain and didn't know any other way out at the time. So I don't know if they necessarily didn't want to complete suicide, but I think that just the depression and loneliness led them to feel no other path for themselves.
I think a lot of people lose touch with hope, and that's a dangerous thing. And we always say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And sometimes people need you to be there to remind them about their hope. Help connect them with their hope so that they know that they're not alone in that suffering that they're enduring at that time.
And obviously, depression is a primary reason why people choose to end their lives, and many times it's untreated depression. Why do you think that many people feeling this way resist treatment and don't get help?
There's a lot of stigma, unfortunately. Working in mental health for over 20 years, nothing makes me happier than when I see somebody like Lorraine Bracco on television talking about her own experiences with depression, because I think it really lets people know, like, wow, this is something that she's coping with, and I'm having some of those same experiences. And if she's able to come out, and speak about that, then I feel that maybe I can take that courageous step and do the same thing. There's so much shame, associated with mental health issues and mental illness, and it's very unfortunate because I think that prevents people from seeking the treatment that would change their lives, and really end a lot of people's suffering if they were willing to take that first step.
Absolutely. And when we talk about risk and types of people, are teens more apt to be at risk for suicide? What do you think, Maria?
Which me? They're more impulsive.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say they were more at risk. The highest rate for suicide is amongst adult males.
Oh, really? And what's the age group?
40 to 65.
Oh, interesting. And do you think that in that case it's brought on by maybe a shift in their economic situation or a life-changing event? Or do you think
different for each individual? 90% of those who die by suicide are suffering from some form of depression, whether it's undiagnosed or mistreated, but there's always underlying causes. And one of the problems is the media, when there is a suicide, will try and say one specific thing that caused the suicide. The child was bullied or the man lost his job. Those are just things that may have pushed them over the edge, but there's always underlying causes to it that are overlooked.
So, Krista, when we had talked before the show about some other behaviors, some teens, for example, there's been a trend in self-harming and cutting. So when a parent notices that their child is doing something like that, is that an automatic red flag that they may have suicidal thoughts, or is that a different?
That can be very different. There is a higher population of completed suicides among teens who have had cutting behaviors, but there's a large population of people who have self-harm and have no intent to suicide or end their life, and for them it's just a coping skill that they've learned.
Okay. If we were to talk about indicators, signs, we recently talked about substance abuse on the show, and there's obviously signs there that maybe are obvious. Somebody's high, you can sort of tell. What are some of the things that parents, spouses should look for in their loved ones that may indicate that there's something going on that's deeper than a passing, sadness? You want to take that?
I would just say the thing that we notice is like a persistent loss of interest in things that you typically would have found joy in. Whether it's doing things with your family or hobbies that you particularly enjoyed, or sports or whatever it is. Changes in their mood.
You say for more than 2 weeks.
Persistence is the critical factor.
And if you're noticing that, how do you approach that person, whether it's a child or someone else? What are the right questions to ask, and are there things that you shouldn't ask necessarily?
I think the most important thing, if you're concerned that somebody has a plan to commit suicide, is to be open and ask them. People are afraid to use the word suicide. Are you planning on killing yourself? People are afraid, I'm going to put that idea in their head. You're not going to put that idea in someone's head. You can, I think, by just being honest and open and saying, do you have a plan to commit suicide? Do you have a plan to kill yourself? You're going to let that person know that you're taking what they're going through seriously, and let them know that you can talk, that they'll talk, that they can talk to you about what is going on. You don't want to skirt around the issue. You don't want to be like, do you think of hurting yourself? What's the difference? You might as well just say, do you have a plan?
True.
Being open and direct, and also non-judgmental. You don't want to say to them, you're not thinking of killing yourself, are you? Because with that kind of, even if they were, they're going to shut down and say, no, they weren't. The most important thing, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, is when you ask the question, like Krista was saying, you have to be direct about it. Because to them, hurting themselves, suicide isn't that. It's ending their pain, so that's not hurting themselves. So they would answer no, and that's why we always recommend being as direct as possible and saying, killing yourself or thinking of suicide.
So I want to get into the various programs. I mean, you're all similar, but you're all different, and I want everybody to sort of understand what role each of you plays. So I'm just going to basically ask each of you to talk a little bit about your organizations. Maybe, Maria, you can start first by talking about...
Sure. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a national organization, but we have chapters all across the country. In the Hudson Valley, we have a chapter that covers Dutchess, Ulster, Orange, Rockland, Putnam, and Sullivan counties, and then Westchester has its own chapter. And our organization is dedicated to understanding and preventing suicide through research, education, advocacy, and to reaching out to those who have been impacted by suicide or suffering from mental illness. It's a very grassroots effort.
Okay, so are you working directly with the individuals who are thinking of committing suicide, or are you working with more their families?
More their families.
Okay.
If someone is thinking of suicide and they call us, we are not a helpline.
Okay.
We do offer the 1-800-273-TALK number. We strongly recommend that.
I think we have a graphic of that.
I think you do. And with AFSP, we are now actually doing focus groups for running support groups in hopefully the spring about people who have attempted suicide.
Okay.
Because there's a need for that.
Okay. And I know that you do the Out of the Darkness community walks.
Yes.
And those are important too.
The Out of the Darkness community walks, they are a fundraiser, but they also, if you've lost someone to suicide and you felt so alone, and then you go to one of our walks and you see that there are literally hundreds of other people there who have experienced the same loss as you have. We also have honor beads where each bead represents a different loss, like white represents loss of a child. So you put on your honor bead and then you look around and you see there's all these other parents there. And some are in a better place than you are because your loss may be more recent, and some are worse than you are, and it just forms bonds because you go up to that person, I lost my child too, and right away there's a connection. People walk away feeling comforted by the walks.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a walk in Putnam. We have a walk in all the counties.
Okay.
So I
And when is
believe
the-
you can
when
show.
is
The
the
one
one?
in Putnam
I think
is
we have the graphic for it, too.
Sunday, October 19th at the Carmel Firehouse. They've hosted it now for 4 years.
Okay, good. So we have a month to go, and,
Yes.
and we can attend that.
And we're so
Perfect.
happy to have it because it also raises awareness about the issue. So it's a lot of times it's a great way to start the conversation about suicide prevention. So.
It takes away the stigma too when you
Absolutely.
see that there are all these people there to talk about, you know, how they've lost someone to suicide or just people supporting the cause,
course.
because as we said in the beginning, there's such a stigma against mental illness.
Yeah.
We try and say if someone is suffering from a physical ailment, it's the same as suffering from a mental ailment.
Yeah.
We want people who talk about how they have diabetes to be able, if they're suffering from a mental illness, to be open and honest and talk about it in the same way. And society doesn't allow us that yet
Yeah.
because of the stigma against it.
How are we going to change that? I mean, just
Education.
Yeah, and awareness.
Education and awareness.
Yeah.
We talk about in our trainings how years ago people didn't talk about drunk driving or child
Yeah.
abuse. So, you know, we didn't do that. Or sex education in schools. But through education and awareness, it's part of the curriculum now.
Yeah, that's great. You're doing great work. Megan, talk a little bit about your organization, Mental Health Association of Putnam.
We're sort of similar to Maria's in that mental health associations are a nationwide organization, and there's also a statewide chapter, and then there are local affiliates. So our affiliate is very small. We're located in Brewster, and the core of our services are really information, referral, and support. All of our services are based on mutual support. You know, Maria was alluding to that when she was speaking about people coming to the walk. I'll just give an example. You know, our bipolar support group is run by someone who has bipolar illness, so they're sharing a mutual lived experience with another person who has the same issue. So we provide about 6,000 service visits every year, you know, in that type of a way, you know, with a mutual support model. So it makes us different, you know, from Putnam Family and Community Services that's providing clinical treatment, but it's just such a nice partnership that the two agencies are able to work together to provide, you know, the level of care that they provide and then the support services that we provide. So, and we do a lot of community education, and two of our big focuses are suicide prevention and mental health services for veterans.
Okay, and did you mention the training?
We have, for the last several years, we've been doing a number of suicide prevention trainings. And you were saying before about, you know, how to have the conversation.
Yes.
I would recommend that everybody goes to Safe Talk.
Okay.
Safe Talk is a 3-hour training that's available to everyone in the community. We have hosted it traditionally in partnership with Putnam Hospital Center, and oftentimes it's for free. And I know we have one coming up, I think it's November 3rd. So that's a great way for people to come and get information about how to identify someone that may be at risk for suicide and put them in touch with suicide first aid resources so that, you know, they can hopefully get that person help. And one of the other trainings that we've been happy to offer is kind of the next step from that, which is called ASSIST. It's Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. It's a 2-day training, and it's to help people feel more comfortable, competent, and confident if they encounter someone who's at risk for suicide, that they'll be able to, you know, to assist that individual. And that training is going to be offered on October 6th and 7th, also in partnership with Putnam Hospital right here in Carmel.
Okay, great. And all this is on your website, right?
Please, yes, if you visit our website, if you're seeing this show after the date that it, you know, was
Yeah.
originally taped, those trainings are ongoing, and, you know, we want to hear from the community. We've done training specifically for special populations, like we did a great training for first responders, because obviously, you know, it's difficult for some
Right.
of the things that they respond to. You know, they're dealing with a lot of trauma. And we also are going to be doing it for veterans. So, you know, if people visit our website, take a look at the trainings that we have available, and if there's a need that you feel is not being met, you know, we'd be happy to provide a training. We're working with the schools also, that's another exciting thing.
Oh,
May I?
good.
I'm sorry. May I
Yes.
say one thing about the Safe Talk?
Please, yes.
Safe Talk is suicide alertness for everyone.
Okay.
So we relate it to CPR. If
Oh,
somebody is
okay.
choking, there's a certain way to respond to the person
Exactly.
choking. And Safe Talk, if someone has thoughts of suicide, there's a certain way to respond to it. So as
Exactly.
Megan said, it is for
It's
everybody
for
in the
everybody.
community.
Don't think that you just need to
No.
be like a clinician or, you know, some.
No.
Suicide is a public health issue. Everybody should be aware, and they should be informed. So it's absolutely for everyone.
Okay, and the task force?
There's a new suicide prevention task force in Putnam County. We formed about a year ago, and it's wonderful because it's really a coordinated community response, which is really what you want. And we have representation there from clergy, from the schools, the coroner is there, the mental health and chemical dependency agencies, and survivors, and we're all there, you know, talking about needs, you know, what we're seeing and ways that we can address those through the task force or, you know, in partnership with our community partners.
Okay. Now, I know that the county, when we talked before the interview, has a wonderful resource
They do.
called the Speak app. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a Suicide Prevention Education and Awareness Kit is the acronym for SPEAK, and it's really a great tool because it asks a bunch of questions and it helps an individual or someone that they know assess a person's risk for suicide, and then at the end it gives the person some next steps, and it also gives information about community resources. And in speaking about the task force, last year, the app is kind of a best practices model, and that was something we were going to request a grant for, and unbeknownst to us, the county executive had already had that in the works. So we were thrilled when she reached out to us to let us know that she'd be unveiling it, and so we just feel really lucky to have that as a tool for our residents here in Putnam County, and it can be downloaded by getting the Putnam County Cares app. And I think it's available for iPhones and Androids. So I hope everybody takes a minute to do that now.
And it's great
Absolutely.
because I know Orange County has it, Ulster County has it, Dutchess County just announced it. So it also shows people that, again, we're making everyone aware of suicide.
Yeah,
So-
that's
And
great.
it's important to
wonderful
have because I
resource.
think it's just like anything, the Putnam County Crisis Hotline, when we give information about that number, people are like, well, I don't need that. Well, you don't need it until you need it. So it's just kind of nice to be able to, have that
It's
in
on
your
your
pocket
phone.
because you never know, when that conversation may present itself.
Absolutely, I agree. So, Krista, leaving the best to last, Putnam Family and Community Services. So I know, just quickly, maybe you can just give a short overview of, what type of services the agency does encompass, and then maybe home in on the PROS program as it relates to suicide prevention.
Absolutely. Putnam Family and Community Services is a mental health and chemical dependency treatment agency. We work with individuals, family, the community, and our mission is to foster hope, recovery, and wellness in all aspects of people's life. And we work with people at all ages, from early intervention to senior services, individual counseling, family counseling. We're in the schools doing early intervention. We're doing prevention, substance abuse. And we're out in the community, care management. So we have a lot of different services. And the PROS program is personalized recovery-oriented services. And what we do is we work with adults who carry a mental health diagnosis, and we help them move forward in their recovery. So all of our clients come to us because they're struggling in some aspect of their life, and we do a lot of group work, coping skills. We work with people on vocational counseling and get them into work, school, and we do individual and psychiatric counseling.
Great, wonderful. So how do you think, all three of you sort of work together to fill in all the gaps? I mean, are you regularly kind of connecting with one another? Are you, you are.
We're in a lot of meetings
Yeah.
together.
We are, yeah. I think it's a great partnership, as Krista was saying. They're a really broad spectrum, multi-service organization that's focused on clinical mental health treatment and chemical dependency treatment. And it's great. They do a fantastic job. Their services are available on a sliding fee scale. They accept insurances. They have great staff. So, people maybe are coming in to see them to, get medication. Maybe they're coming in for a therapy appointment, or as Krista said, coming in to, work on their recovery through PROS. But there are a lot of other things that they need. And so there are other agencies, and we're lucky in Putnam because it's small that, we can all be around a table together and try to, work together and do what's in the best interest of our customers, and make sure that we're not duplicating services, but that we're collaborating and, making the most out of the resources that the modest resources that each of our organizations have. Yeah, and Maria's a regional partner, and we're thrilled to have her support, especially, with regard to suicide prevention and support for families.
So we offer a lot for the survivors.
Exactly.
Survivors, those who have lost someone to suicide. We have a survivor outreach program. So if they've lost someone to suicide, they can call us and request a visit. And we send 2 peers who have experienced the same loss and are trained to their home. And that's very helpful for them.
Yeah.
We've had people speak, survivors from Maria's organization have come to speak as part of the opening of our trainings, and it's just so moving and amazing and wonderful that they're able to, take a loss and turn that into, something wonderful for other families that, that are in a similar situation.
So this is great, and I think, it's important for us to educate the community on the great resources that you're providing. But in terms of hope in this story. What are some of the, what's the brighter side of this, sort of the aftermath of, taking advantage of the services? Are there bright spots? Are there stories that you can share where you've helped people and they've come out of this?
I think there's a lot of hope in this. We all work with people who, have survived, family members. We've worked with a lot of people come to our program because they have a history of maybe multiple suicide attempts and they just don't have the coping skills to get through the day. And we've had people come to us and we'll work with them on learning their triggers, learning their warning signs, and then what to do once they start realizing that, and just having people, I think, feel like it's okay to talk about it and they have places to go, and people who have been through this. We all, I think, have peers in our program, people who have been through their own recovery. And once you can just make connections and teach people how to manage those feelings, then that's hope right there.
That's great.
I don't think we'd be able to be in this field if there wasn't hope,
Yeah.
and that's the majority of what we see, and it's magical to watch that happen for people, and you feel lucky to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And, of course, obviously there are, low points to that as well, but, overall, there is a lot of hope. And we work with a lot of people who, have worked through. I'm always amazed at the courage of the people, that walk through our door,
Yeah.
just the things that they're able to do.
Yeah.
So it's,
I mean, in some way, it was the tragic death of Robin Williams really has, sort of shown a light on this topic. And I think in some ways, I've actually read a few stories where they've talked about spikes in suicide in certain areas, demographics associated with celebrities committing suicide or completing suicide. Have you seen that as well?
Statistically, I couldn't say yet because it's too soon.
Yeah.
But we do worry about copycats after a celebrity suicide and how it is portrayed in the media. So we always recommend the media, whenever I get a phone call, please
Yes.
go to AFSP's website, because there are do's and don'ts how to talk about the suicide, what to say, what not to say. Always give the 1-800 number so people know that there is hope and it doesn't have to end that way.
Yeah, that's great. So before we end, I just want to remind everybody of the key events that are going on. So you want to just talk again for 1 minute about the walk?
Sure. We have the Out of the Darkness Community Walk. It is on Sunday, October 19th at the Carmel Firehouse. And if you've lost someone to suicide, or you've thought of suicide, or you just want to be around, you want to make a difference, it's a wonderful event. We usually get around 200 people at least at the event. There is no charge to attend. There's no fee to register. If you'd like to make a donation, obviously we appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Megan, you want to talk about your training?
Sure. ASSIST, the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, is October 6th and 7th. It's from 8:30 to 4:30. There's no charge, but registration is required, so people can do that on our website. And Safe Talk, as we said, please, everyone, please take Safe Talk. We'll do it. We'll do it every month if we have to.
Okay.
But the next training is going to be November 3rd. It's a Monday, and that's also at no charge at Putnam Hospital Center. So,
Perfect.
and again, just pre-registration is required, so we make sure we have enough trainers, and we always provide refreshments.
Of course.
Yeah.
And don't forget to download the app,
Absolutely.
the Speak
Yes.
app, and that can be found on the county
Putnam,
website.
Putnam County Cares is the name of the app, or it can be accessed through the Putnam County website.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
that's putnamcountynewyork.com,
I
if I'm
believe.
not mistaken, so you can check that out.
Thank you.
And then again, for more information, there's a graphic. Please visit the websites of all these fine ladies and avail of their services if you need it. We're going to sign off now, but as usual, I want to remind everyone that this is your show, and we want to bring on the guests and address the topics that you're interested in. So please don't hesitate to send us an email. You can go to the gooddayhudsonvalley.com website and give us your thoughts and suggestions. Until then, have a great day, Hudson Valley.